Christina McKelvey, to be followed by Jackson Carlo. Christina McKelvey.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. It's my belief that for the UK to leave the European Union is the greatest act of political self-harm of our time. We have not yet properly seen the damage unfold, but when it comes, it will be, I believe, immense. And the purpose of the bill before us today is abundantly clear. It will be a vital declaration of protection for every individual in Scotland, preserving and defending our devolution and our very democracy. It will mitigate the impact of Brexit on this Parliament and on the Scottish Government and on Scottish society, though sadly it cannot save Scotland completely. Okay.
Joanne Lamond.
Can I assume from what the member has said that regardless of whether there's a deal or not, you think the bill should continue?
Christina McKelvey.
I think the bill is in place today in order to ensure we get that deal. And if we don't get that deal, we have to protect this place. But I also have to say that David Mundell gives me no reassurance that we will get a deal. David Lidington gives me no reassurance that we will get a deal. So in order to protect this Parliament's power and this Parliament's place in our nation, we need this bill today. So let's make no mistake about that. The very ethos, the reconvening of this Scottish Parliament in 1999 is now under threat, one that would have horrified Donald Dewar. And Theresa May doesn't seem to know from one day to the next whether she's actually trying to put in place. She has no idea. She's riddled with contradictions. She wants a hard Brexit, but she doesn't want a hard border in Ireland. Well, I'm sorry, those two are mutually exclusive positions. She can't have a UK imperialistic cake and still eat from the EU cake. She needs to recognise that there are 27 other countries within a clear and long-established entity that want to protect their own interests rather than indulge the UK's. And while she continues her lament for British imperialism, we need to make sure we understand what she might do next, not a mean feat. And if the Scots won't do what they're told, that's the message we were getting last week, then she wants the ability to pull back her devolution and tell us we've all been bad children and put us on the naughty step, maybe forever. But just because she can't decide what to do about anything and totally rejects any concept that might just irritate her Brexit fanatics like Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson or even the DUP, doesn't mean she won't act at all. Only that she will almost certainly make the wrong decisions. And in some sense, she is a hostage as much as Scotland is. Her own position is dictated to her by others. She is the proverbial puppet on a string. And Brexit is not just about economics and trade. I am fed up hearing about that. It is also about the profound impacts upon all of our rights. Indeed, leaving the EU will deprive us of the benefits that have been guaranteed to us by the EU through its Charter of Fundamental Rights, which came into effect in December 2009. This Charter guarantees a far wider range of rights than the UK's 1998 Human Rights Act. It prohibits, for example, all discrimination based on sex, race, colour, ethnic origin, religion, disability, age or sexual and gender orientation. It also guarantees access to healthcare and those very, very valuable environmental protections that we all need. Presiding Officer, I'm profoundly concerned that people who voted Brexit didn't realise they were voting to limit, even lose altogether, our rights at work, such as reasonable working hours and holiday leave, rights under the European Courts of Justice, rights in pregnancy and maternity leave, and a host of other protections that seem set for the bonfire of EU legislation that will follow Brexit. For example, Vernon Bogdaner, Professor of Government at King's College and author of Brexit and Our Unprotected Constitution, says, and I quote, "Last autumn, 2 employees sued foreign embassies for unfair dismissal, failure to pay the minimum wage and holiday pay and breaches of the working time regulations. One embassy claimed immunity under the State Immunity Act, but the Supreme Court overruled them. Rights that we can lose. Opportunities to access that additional power of justice will vanish on Brexit Day, and this is something that makes me both angry and alarmed. Brexit will reduce our rights and protections given by the European courts. People will lose their automatic EU right to healthcare anywhere else in Europe on the same terms as local population. A broken leg in Benidorm is going to be a very, very expensive business. The Conservative notion that there is no threat is utter fantasy, since their own leader seems to have no idea what or how to guarantee those rights: human, consumer, children's, employment, equality, disability, just for some would be lost post-Brexit. And I'm not inclined to assume the outcome will be in line with our current deal. As John Major remarked last week, Presiding Officer, there can be no Brexit outcome that will be good as the package we already have from within the EU. I hear nothing that gives me any reassurance, only a lot of anxiety and ever-increasing sense of doom. But I'll tell you, Presiding Officer, who does give me reassurance: our Lord Advocate and his detailed, considered and thought-out determination. He gives me reassurance. And as my colleague Mike Russell highlighted last week, we may not ultimately need the bill at all, but he has equally made it clear that it needs to be in place, and in place fast, to avoid the danger of the whole Westminster rickety, unguided train passing a bill, then it's too late for us to do anything to protect our own position in this Parliament. That would leave any Westminster government to suddenly decide to repeal the entire devolution package. We could literally see a Scotland spun back under Westminster rule, silenced. Presiding Officer, I believe that's unthinkable. We must have this bill, and I urge my colleagues to support the general principles of the bill at 5 o'clock today.